Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and once again I'm joined by Colin Watt, David Simmons and also James McDonough for your half-time analysis. So, 2-1. Every one of our bets is off because we thought it was going to be 2-0, what was it, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. Listen, St Mirren came out, they opened the scoring. Did you see much wrong with that, Colin, from a Celtic perspective?
I think once again the kind of defensive frailties that Kevin was speaking about from the weekend, they're starting to come through. Are not picking up our men at the corners. It's a bit of an easy tap in. You just wonder, is the person on the line going to do a wee bit more to try and stop the ball from getting in? Can the goalkeeper command his area a wee bit more? It's early in the game, you can afford to sort of make those mistakes, as you alluded to when we were watching it. It's given us time to grow into the game. I think we've changed formation a wee bit since as well. So I don't know, guys, what do you think from what you've seen of it? Could that goal have been prevented?
It certainly was the game plan out the window right for the first minute for Neil Lennon, wasn't it? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the defensive marking, he was free to tap it in from 3 yards out, if you like. Like you say, that's the game plan out the window straight away, and it's an uphill battle from there.
Sorry, someone's mentioning on here about Brown being 1 yellow away. Did he get booked in the first half, Colin?
He just walked the runner as the runner was trying to get
just
round
as
him.
I was setting up the cameras. Not that I wasn't paying attention.
Do you know, it's funny, we were speaking about that earlier. Brown was only 2 yellow cards away from a suspension. So obviously kind of getting close to being out for the Rangers game if he's not careful, because it's like a 2 week overlay, is that right? The way if you get suspended for yellow cards, it doesn't kick in for 14th day. So need to be careful with that. I mean, maybe you start to rest Brown more with that game in mind, because I'd hate to not come out on October 17th and Bruni's not leading you at the tunnel. Do you know what I mean? So, interesting one.
Again, from a manager's perspective, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, James. We're sitting here at half-time. Celtic have managed to weather the storm somewhat. A couple of good goals. I know that Duffy's was quite an easy header, but then Forrest, the most maligned Celtic player in the squad from the fans at times, comes up with an important goal. At half-time, Lennon isn't known for making half-time substitutions. Now, you were commenting on the fact that the formation's changing depending on the possession. What would you do at half-time?
I think you'll be quite happy. I think you mentioned there, they started maybe cutting them a wee bit cold. It's just somebody not doing their job, corner against, and not picked up, and it's a headed goal. But they responded really well. They've controlled the game. You've seen at times they're back three, back four. I think it's a back four when they don't have the ball, and a back three when they do have the ball. But Shane Duffy's been the deepest player, and at times he's been 20, 25 yards inside St Mirren's half. So it's just been I think Lenny will be happy that they've just been patient. 2 good deliveries from Christie, 2 assists. Duffy's a similar goal to the goal they've conceded. He's found his cell unmarked in the box. He's going to score that probably 10 times out of 10. And it's a great ball for Christie for the second one. Great header for Forrest. But I think they've just prodded away, being patient. You've heard them, I think, at times outside the pitch talk about tempo. Yeah, that was what I picked up in the mic.
As a gaffer, you must be pulling your hair out to see someone as lethal in the penalty box as Shane Duffy going through there completely unmarked. Even as a goalkeeper, you must be going, come on, you need the back four to kind of pick up on someone like that.
That's it, you're screaming at your back four. If you're unmarked in the penalty area, you're screaming. I mean, Bobby Zamal, I've seen him made a couple of good saves, 1-on-1 that really stand out. I think it was it Bruni? Edward, sorry. So, I mean, you're hoping for your back four to be at least picking up, especially target men like Big Duffy, you know what I mean? And then James Forrest getting ahead of the smallest man in the park. I mean, let's be honest, your back four should be taking care of that.
Yeah.
Still on the subject of goalkeepers, you mentioned Bain before the game started. Have you been impressed with Barkas? He's come in for a bit of criticism recently.
Well, I actually have. I mean, there's very little he can do about the goal, like we say. He's unmarked after a couple of minutes, and then he's come for a few crosses. He looks comfortable enough. I mean, I'm maybe just feeling a little bit sorry for Bain maybe in the post-match analysis, feeling he deserves a bit of game time. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if Lennon wants to go and get a proper number one, he obviously doesn't see Bain as being that number one goalkeeper, then fair play. I mean, it looks like he's got a good goalkeeper in that position. Yeah,
you're right. I think what happened was Bain in many ways was a victim of Foster's success, because Bain had done well. I don't think he'd done much wrong, to be honest with you, as a Celtic goalkeeper. But Foster was, the reason for us winning the League Cup, for example, last season. He's the reason why we beat Lazio at home 2-1. And various other games, Foster was the star man. So I think when you fail to get him in, even on loan again, then you think, I need a I need a big goalkeeper, I need a big signing here. So we've gone out and signed Barkas for about £5 million, the most expensive goalie in Celtic's history. So I think Bain's been a bit of a victim of Foster's success in many ways. Now, you mentioned earlier as well, James, about Christie. Gary Doonan's commenting to suggest that his inclusion has been justified, 2 great crosses. I mean, that's exactly what he brings to this team, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we probably got his role wrong before the game when we spoke about the shape of the team. It looks to me like Brown plays his usual controlling role, and then McGregor and Christie have played ahead of him. Striker dropping in, they've had the width on the left by Taylor and Forrest on the right, so Christie's had that wee bit more of a free role to try and pick up the pockets, and it's going to be difficult. You see St Mirren are dropping deep, their strikers playing deep, they're being quite hard to beat. Celtic have no cut them open very often. I think that's why, like say, Kilmala struggled to maybe get any opportunities to score. Edwards dropped into wee areas, but I think Christie's sometimes limited when you put him on one side. I think he's been given a wee bit more freedom to go and create, and obviously the first one's a dead ball, but the second one's for open play. It's a great cross. Yeah,
what I've been impressed with Christie in the first half is that he's been more of a team player than I think he has been in certain parts of this season so far. I think he feels as though a lot of responsibilities on him to create something and to try and take that shot from 25-30 yards, and he's been criminal at times this season and taking shots where there's a pass on or things like that. But the first half, I think maybe the fact that he was dropped for the game on Saturday, maybe a wee mindset change that he's come in and thought, I'm going to need to try and play a wee bit different to stay in the manager's plans, and so far so good, certainly from him.
It could be a resting process as well. He's obviously had a lot of minutes under his belt for Scotland recently as well, and it might just be a rotation thing from Lennon. But no, I mean, he's done well tonight, definitely.
Now, Colin, you've mentioned Brown in the pre-match in relation to the fact that, you know, he was 2 bookings away from suspension, something that concerned you. He's now got a booking. Is the time right now to bring in Turnbull, another great Scottish talent in the midfield? I
would say so. I think, as James, you've alluded to, he's kind of sitting in that role just in front of the back 3, back 4, wherever that is. But I think Callum McGregor can also play in that role. So what you're looking at is who's going to play in Callum McGregor's role. And I think there's nobody better to come off that bench, certainly, than Turnbull. From what I've seen of him at his time at Motherwell, he is that box-to-box player, and he can link between the forward line and the back line. So he's going to bring a lot of energy to the team. The other option that's on there is Sorrow as well. Could you bring Sorrow on for Brown? It's an interesting one, but now that Bruni's he's that 1 yellow card away, it's always that risk. And can you take it in a Wednesday night away to St Mirren? Do you know what I mean?
What would you do in Lenny's shoes, James? Would you give him 10 minutes and hopefully get a third goal?
I think Brown will be all right. I think he's been booked. I don't think he'll want to take him off till the game's done. He obviously, is it possible that he could get a booking and be suspended before the Rangers game?
I mean, that would be possible. I suppose if he gets sent off tonight, then he misses the game against Livingston. That's it.
He might have to manage a suspension before the Rangers game, but I don't know. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll make sure that they get control of the game, and if he was to take him off, I mean, McGregor's a great replacement to play that role, and maybe Cham would maybe come on as well.
We're just watching back the St Mirren goal here, and I was mentioning about having someone on the post. There's nobody on the post there. No. As a manager, James, are you favouring having guys on the post to clear corners, or what would you do? You take the zonal marking approach?
We'd always have somebody in the back post, but I think they've just been caught there with it being so early, and they've been a wee bit, maybe a wee bit disorganised in terms of who was picking who up. I think it might have been Christie that was on the back post, and he's had to leave it to try and pick the goal scorer.
I think he should have been goal side then, wouldn't he?
I think they've just been late to get it organised. I think if you see another corner, they'll be better organised than that. They've just caught them cold a wee bit. But I think the main thing is they've responded really well, and it's a good time to, if you're going to concede in the early doors. And the whole game, really, since then, apart from 1 or 2 moments, has been played in the final 30-40 yards of the pitch.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Now, again, we've spoken a lot about the striker options. We've been talking about Lee Griffiths, who's not in the team tonight. It was quite surprising that Kilmala started, and we asked, what does he bring to the Celtic side? Well, the comments we're getting on social media is not a lot in that first half. Do you give him an extra 10-15 minutes, like Simmy says, and see if he can bear in? Because he needs minutes himself, doesn't he?
I think he will. I think it's been that type of game where, I mean, their defence has played that deep. It's been in and around the edge of the box, so there's not really been any chance to slip him down the side for a wee shot of goal. If he's going to score, it looks like it'll be a sort of fox in the box goal type thing, maybe a wee second ball or something like that, a scrap. But it's really difficult when the opposition are playing that deep. You're kind of relying on good combinations in and around the edge of the box, move the ball quick switches of play, good crosses. You've seen us scored through 2 good crosses. It's a difficult game, I think, for a striker, unless you're maybe scoring off a cross to get that service.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because obviously we're looking at the Duffy goal there, and it was a great header. It was completely unmarked in the box. But then about 10 minutes later, Edward was played in through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. Great save from Zlamala, has to be said, but Klimala scored a goal very similar to that at the weekend when he was played through up at Dingwall. He's not really had that chance. Is it up to the player in that sense to get into that position to create it for himself, or is he just not getting the service tonight?
I think you've just got to rely on, you've just got to keep making runs, and he'll probably be making a lot of runs off the camera that we don't see, just trying to get down the sides of centre halves. You see the fullbacks who St Mirren are quite tight, their back four are narrow, there's not a lot of gaps to run into, so he's got to rely on your Christies, your Forrests, even Edward dropping into the wee holes to try and pick up the ball to feed him. So I don't think he's really had too many opportunities, and he might, I think it'll be a big 15-20 minutes for him in terms of this game. He might just get a wee sniff, and if he takes that, it'll go a long way. If he doesn't get a chance, it might be, it's one of those ones you maybe make a change and Ayeti comes on and scores with his first touch or something like that, because
he's got that in him, hasn't he? He's got that in him. Now, I've been very critical of Christie's set plays, particularly from the corner kicks. There was 2 games and we counted 17 corners with no end result. I've got to take that on the chin, because he's obviously set up 2 goals tonight. Yep. But that's what Christie gives you. And again, I'm not a big critic of Christie. I think he's a fantastic player. And I think the club need to do all they can do to tie him down on a longer term contract, because at the moment, you know, it's almost as if his contract is going to run down and we're going to lose that boy. But again, he's the most improved player in that squad, the most maligned player in that squad. James Forrest scores a header, great goal. He looks a wee bit leaner, Colin.
I see you pointed that out, that he was maybe on the state of mind diet. But honestly, when a guy like someone like James Forrest gets a free header in the box, it's kind of concerning if you're a defender. He is probably the smallest guy on the park at the minute. He takes
the header, just watching it back there, around about knee height as well, which is quite
just head height for Forrest. So. No, but he's played actually quite well. What I have noticed is when we are getting the ball, he's kind of cutting inside and El Hamid's doing the overlapping run. So like James and you were saying, it's kind of 3 when we have the ball, but 4 when we've not got the ball, and El Hamid kind of goes out to the wide right and you see him playing in the sort of natural right back position. El Hamid's another one to touch on. I think he's had a good game offensively. At the back, he's looked a bit shaky, though. I don't know if he's settled into that formation. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Now, we asked you for your predictions before the game. What I'm going to ask now is, do we make any changes? I say we, I know that, you know. Do we make any changes, and what is your prediction now that we're sitting 2-1 up at half time?
I think you wait at least 10-15 minutes and see how the game plays out. Obviously, after losing that early goal at the start of the game, you want to see how they start the second half. Personally, I would wait 15 minutes and then look at maybe making a change. My prediction would be, I'm going to say 4-1 Celtic.
4-1 Celtic.
Aye,
Colin?
I'm going with 4-1. I went 4-0. I think there's still time for Ayeti to come off the bench and get his trademark goal.
James, we're looking at Danny Lennon with his flowing locks. He was on the podcast the other week there. He famously played as a 50-year-old against the Celtic Colts last season. Would you get your boots back on next season?
Definitely, I've got 10 years on me, I think.
What's your prediction for the second half?
I think the manager will be happy. I think the biggest thing was the response. I think if they were to concede a second goal, then you're really up against it, against a team that's going to sit in and be hard to beat. But they've responded really well. So a couple of half things after that. But I think it'll just be a case of just keep the ball, keep prodding, be patient, put crosses in the box, and the third goal will come. I think if the third goal comes quickly, then it could be 5. But St Mirren equally have taken credit out of the game because they have been hard to beat. But I think Celtic will win comfortably. I've
been impressed with Jimmy Goodwin. I mean, we were talking about him at half time, Simmy. I mean, he's done so well at Alloa. He's ex-Celtic player, of course. Yep. And he's doing well at St Mirren. And I said before the game also, I have no issue with a team like Livingston or Kilmarnock or St Mirren playing with so many men, but that's the only way they can play against Celtic. If they try and open up a wee bit, what happens is what happened for Ross County at the weekend, and they get hammered 5-0. So fair play to Jimmy Goodwin and what he's done at St Mirren. But I do think that Celtic will, and in particular with the strong bench that we've got in the last half hour, we will craft out a few more chances. So I'm going to change my prediction and go for 4-1. So thank you everybody for all your comments throughout the halftime analysis, and we'll catch up with you again at full time.